Hi, welcome to this home edition of the Sounds Unheard Masterclass. My name is Jessie Marino. I am a composer, performer, and I'd like to welcome you to my home studio here in Berlin. Today, we're going to talk about a particular kind of music composition that focuses on the body and using physical gestures as the main musical material. In the first part of this series, I'd like to share some of my thoughts and creative work and give you a look at some of the techniques and processes and concepts that I work with in my own version of making music. Thank you very much for joining us, and let's get started. The music I've been making finds itself in between different mediums of performance, permeating spaces of acoustic and electronic sound, light, visual art, dance, and theater, and choosing from this flood of possible material anything which the work finds necessary. This is a music concerned first and foremost with the organization of time. Space and venue provide a framework for this music. These frameworks may include the concert hall, the black box theater, the subway platform, the gallery space, an interactive video game, a zine, etc. Video, staging, costumes, furniture, props, and lighting are given equal importance to the more traditional musical parameters at play. This work allows for the inclusion of internet memes, popular music, DIY technology, video art, set design, archival material, and of course, cliched dance moves. But it displaces the expected context of these materials by organizing them into rhythmic patterns and formal musical constructs. The flexibility of the materials used in these musical works can allow these pieces into the worlds of theater, dance, or performance art. But they may also remain happy inside of music. Ultimately, I work with musicians and ask musicians to use their musical talents in musical ways, even though the materials that they are performing aren't necessarily musical. I have a deep-seated interest in virtuosity. Not necessarily the kinds of virtuosity assumed by Western classical music, but more of an everyday virtuosity. A virtuosity which takes special notes of the kinds of activities we practice on a daily basis, the physical movements we use to communicate, to transport ourselves, and the gestures needed to perform a plethora of mundane chores and motions. I'll give you an example. Let's choose 7 everyday gestures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. These are movements which you could easily imagine doing while sitting and having a cup of coffee. But by placing them slightly outside of their natural feeling and time, we could get something like this. This simple performance of these movements in a super slowed down tempo immediately dissociates the viewer's understanding of them as purely banal gestures and invites the viewer to try to find patterns of organization which may indicate a separate or additional meaning. If I were to speed these gestures up even further and include repetitive structures, we can begin to see in these everyday movements a kind of musical shape. In a piece of mine from 2009 called Roteblau, I wanted to further abstract these pedestrian movements by exploring the extremities of both the size of the gesture and the speed at which it's performed. This piece tries to figure out how unison affords us a space to simultaneously celebrate the strength of the unified group, as well as the unique, indelible qualities of the individual. Here is a live performance by the duo Mami Nova. Roteblau uses unison as a foundational structuring idea of the composition. The gestures themselves are not difficult to perform. Rather, the virtuosity of the performance is seen in the simultaneous execution and precision of the performers' movements together. There are no specialized techniques required to perform this piece, which was very important to me at the time because I wanted the musicians to focus on exploring the virtuosity that's in their bodies without their musical instruments. So for the performers, the only quote-unquote technique required is a conscious and continued effort in making the physical movements as similar to one another as possible. True unison, of course, is not achievable by us humans. Inevitably, there will be a difference between each individual. So I like to think of this piece as working on two different levels. On the macro level, the audience can see the strength and uniformity of the gestures and be impressed by the detailed efforts undertaken by the performative whole. However, on a micro level, we can see the very small but perceivable differences in the gestures from performer to performer. The lingering fragments of each performer's understanding of how they control their body, the subconscious residue of the individual. By placing the performative space directly onto the physical body, we can simultaneously perceive the power of the unified group who work together to perform each task, and the unique, indelible qualities of the individual, which inevitably arise because we are dealing with humans and not machines. Since the era of John Cage, we musicians have come to accept an extended definition of music to be the organization of absolutely any sound. So continuing in this context, I wanted to think of music as the organization of any vibration. This would allow us to include light, objects, and the manipulation of bodies in space to the possible roster of musical materials. We could then think of remapping the concept of amplification to include costumes as an amplification of our skin and bodies, video projection as the amplification and animation of light, and further, we could harness and direct electrical flow, not just as a tool for powering our machines, but as an organized and creative platform for the electrical impulses in our brain to carve out and illuminate a lively performative space within our imaginations. Join me for part 2, where we will discuss how to communicate these ideas on a piece of paper and explore some of the alternative types of musical notation that I use in my pieces. Thanks for watching.